How you guys doing? Everybody's good?
Hey guys.
So, I mean, we're really here just to talk about communities and really the kind of community aspect to all the collectibles. Obviously, that's why we're here, NFTs. And we'll kind of just introduce ourselves first and then kind of talk about the community aspect itself, kind of growing one, and any questions that you guys might have. So I'll turn it over to you first to introduce yourself and say a little bit about yourself as well.
Sure. Perfect. So my name is Lenikus. Some might know me as Kodama.eth. I'm in the NFT space since 2019 and in the crypto space since 2016. And yeah, I've been building my own community for quite some time, but I feel it's like more of a full-time job. So I've been lacking it a little bit since I started building on a custodial multi-chain NFT marketplace, a European-based one, since 10 months now, and it's pretty time-consuming. So not so much time left for tweeting 30 times a day.
It's a full-time job.
I'm Allen Hena. I've been in crypto about, 4 years, 17, DeFi, NFTs, a lot of different things. Currently doing some consultant work for Vayner NFT.
Cool. And my name is Mons. I've been a kind of creator just in the travel space and social media space and kind of joined into crypto, I want to say at the end of last year in December, so fairly newer to this space and got into it kind of via NBA Top Shot and have just been all into NFTs since then and definitely into the community aspect of it. Yeah. So, I mean, just kind of banking off of that, I think a big aspect to kind of what we're seeing now in the NFT space is definitely, obviously with everything going on here too, is the community aspect and bringing people together, connecting, very much, tweeting, social media posts, word of mouth, and it's understanding kind of where the actual community is and where kind of some of the community might just be more of a, I don't know, spammy type basis. I'm sure we've all kind of seen that, joined a Discord, and it's just like messages on messages, and all it is emojis. Nobody's really talking or anything like that. So it's kind of like, where do we see the value in it, and how do us in the community build the value around that project and kind of go from there? I mean, maybe you guys can speak to.
Yeah, I look at the whole community. It feels like a watered down word at this point. Like people just throw it out just to say it.
Yeah.
And I mean, ultimately, it's like, where are you going? What's the mission, right? And I look at almost like the current communities as like caveman in a way. It's just very nascent, very new. And I look at that progression from like community to brand, then maybe to a DAO. DAO is also sort of like a buzzword, but like ultimately we're all getting, with collectibles especially, we're part of some sort of community around some sort of like aesthetic or media or something like that. And where is that going? You own it, but where are you taking it? So I think once you get to a brand level, then you sort of expand your community beyond just the holders, right? Because people want to buy all your different, look at all the Bored Apes with their hoodies and things like that, or a lot of things that you see with Cool Cats. So that brand expansion, where you look at like a Supreme and what they do, anything Supreme puts out, doesn't matter if it's on like a toaster or like a backpack, people are in line like buying all this stuff, right? So I can see that being the next progression, and you see some of these collection projects getting to a brand level. And then I think the next question is, what value am I getting out of it as a holder of this NFT in that community? And that's where I think the DAO comes in eventually, because it's like, how do you get, I think part of it is regulation. It needs to basically turn an NFT holder into having a stake in that entire sort of like value that collection community builds up over time as it transitions to this sort of like decentralized autonomous organization.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would like to go one step back and talk about not only collectible communities, but I think it's also pretty important to grow the NFT community in general, because I'm coming straight from Lisbon Blockchain Week, and I would say maybe 25% of the people in the crypto space own an NFT. So there's so much room to grow. It's like we are the crypto community, and then the NFT community is still a small part. And then now we're trying to separate everybody into 10K avatar communities. And I think that's not the right approach. I think the right approach would be to also grow the NFT community in general and not think about like our small, limited social golf club, yacht club communities where the entry level is super high and you only have 10K places.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, it's like, first we have to think about growing the general community. Like, we want to grow the crypto community, but we want to grow also the NFT community. And I get it that everybody wants to build their own community, but we have to be careful not to end up in like, I don't know, 110K avatar communities, and that's it in the end.
Yeah, I've said this so many times. I feel like the whole 10K thing is such like just dogma. People do it out of habit and lack of like, they just don't want to step away from it. So they'll do less than 10,000, but like when you go over 10,000, people are like, oh, it's too many pieces. Why is it too many pieces? Because what, like Larva Labs just picked 10,000, it's successful, and like now we're just gonna copy it? Like, when you dare to do anything outside, you're not really thinking about the limitations of a 10,000 piece project. I know the space is nascent, so like it's still early. So when it's not early, do you think that like your community is really gonna be that large? I mean, even if you get to a 60%, that's 6,000 holders out of 10,000. I can tell you that if you look at what Coinbase NFT is looking to do, I think you're going to see your first successful projects on a platform that's more mainstream with like 100,000 pieces. Now imagine 10x, imagine 50,000 people on Twitter rocking the same type of avatar and what that's going to do for like network effect and like just sort of exposure. And when someone pulls that off, then people will be like, oh, we're doing 100,000, because it just seems like a lot of people just do stuff out of habit and like copy pasta stuff, not actually trying to push the limits of this space.
Definitely. I think definitely with the 10K and I think just the PFP style in general, right? It's like you can only have a certain amount of profile picture on your Twitter, right? You're not gonna put all these different NFTs. And I've seen some people do it, right? They'll kind of combine all their NFTs on one picture and make that their profile picture, their banner, and it looks amazing. But I think the next step to that is also the gallery aspect, as far as being able to showcase your NFTs on a digital aspect or in a digital space, and being able to actually have a gallery that people can look at, and that's where all your NFTs live, and that's how you're kind of showcasing them. But furthermore, in the more community aspect, it's the utility behind them, right? I think, one thing that I've just definitely been noticing of just NFT.NYC itself is that there's a lot of events that are saying, if you're an owner of this NFT, you can get into the party. Or if you're an owner of this NFT, you get certain exclusive benefits and privileges. And that aspect of giving back to your community is a huge part, I think, of building the community, right? There's a lot of NFTs that might airdrop you an additional NFT or an exclusive NFT, and that kind of gains value if the project goes up. But the project really, really goes up. I think, John was saying it earlier, I think a couple talks ago, was from the bottom up and from your community to really be, hyping you on things like Twitter and in a public space for people to question, oh, what's that project going on over there? Or what's that project going on over there? And really, come from a word of mouth kind of aspect, and from a place of substance, just like, we all love GM and saying that, and we all love saying different sayings, but further than that, it's what do you like about the project? What is actually something that the developer team is doing that you like? What is something that the leadership team is doing that you like, or that you've been rewarded with and you want to go share that? And I think whether you are a collector or a creator, it's understanding kind of where that utility is and what you can potentially bring to your community to heighten its value and continue to kind of build its brand.
I want to present a slight bear case for, when you talk about community and value. So if you look at a lot of these projects, I'm not going to pick one, but today you could get, say, there's a lot of them. You pick one like PFP Avatar project, and you get like, say, 20,000 if you sold it today. You come to NFT.NYC, you hang out with people, you engage, it's fun. Then you go back home, and then you're like, was that engagement, being in the club, was that enough value back to me, right? Like, do I really feel like this is worth 20,000 or 50 or even more, right? So I think it'll be really interesting to see what comes out of this when people sort of have actually in real life engaged with like their communities in a way. outside of like the Discord space or the Twitter space and seeing what that vibe feels like to them when it's actually been tested and validated in a way. So I wouldn't be surprised if like there's a bearish sort of like sentiment after this, not for any specific project, but just for the general sort of like perception of like, I've measured this value, I've gone to this big event, you know, and now like, do I feel like it was worth it? Because a lot of times it's just, in a lot of things, the anticipation is worth more than the actual event, right? The payoff. So like, when you get the payoff, you're like, I don't know if it was worth it. So I think a lot of people will sort of be asking themselves that over the next several weeks, like, is it really worth going to, not saying this is the only event that these different collectibles do, but I think it's definitely gonna cause some sort of like shakeup in a way. And it's on those projects to like continue like delivering that value in different sort of ways. That's why I think we have to, you know, go from community to a brand, because a brand has value and assets that you can sell. And then when they're collecting that money, how does that get back to the NFT holder? Because if it doesn't get back to the NFT holder, I mean, it's cool for the events and the meetups, but is that worth 50 grand to me? I don't know. I'm not convinced that everyone thinks it is. Yeah,
no, definitely. I think it's, I think going based off of that, like, is the party worth it? Was the event worth it? And it's got to go past just having one big, like, we had a banger, it was great last night, open bar, drank, like everything like that, cool. But now what is this moving forward, and why would this NFT and its community be valued at a higher place? And like you mentioned, funding that and really putting that back into the holder's hand and really putting that back into the collector's hand, however that looks like, right? There's other real life experiences that it could be. There's people that you can meet. I've seen projects that are, you know, giving back with info, helping, you know, collectors of their projects go on to create their own projects and giving them resources to do that. And I think that's a new and innovative way to kind of provide utility to their community. But it's really about continuing to progress and continuing to innovate in that space, and not just, you know, we're going to throw a couple events per year for our collectors and, you know, they should be happy with that and that. But very much building the brand off of that, and it starts with the community.
Yeah, I'll say one more thing. Like, one of my biggest criticisms of like Larva Labs as a punk owner is like, they don't do anything. They didn't throw any events. I mean, I haven't seen them. But maybe it's like the fact that that's sort of like their thing. It's just sort of, that's sort of like that community culture that they've established. And maybe all like the roadmap stuff, which are great, and even if you deliver it, is just, there's more than one way to do it, right? So it's really interesting to see how that will potentially play out. Because if there's no expectation, there's no necessarily a letdown. But when you set an expectation, there's an opportunity for a letdown.
Absolutely.
Hard to step into the conversation now, but I would say, because you were talking about utility of token and creating events and stuff, but in the end, what's the most important part about the community? It's the community itself and the people. So I think it's really important for a project to get people that actually want to be part of a community and don't just want to flip a PFP for 5x and are gone afterwards and call you a scammer if it dumps. So, I mean, that's a problem that all projects in crypto have, that like we have a big community of babies and they need announcements every now and then and good performance, otherwise they're gone. So I think, and that brings me back again to the limitation of 10K. I mean, you don't want to limit yourself to a community of 10K people. So I think fractionalization is a big topic. But then you again come to the topic of entry levels for communities on Ethereum. Like, it's more like a shrimp, more to a whale game. So there is not much room for new people to join these communities. And for smaller projects, fractionalization does not really make sense, maybe for punks and apes, but everything else feels a little bit weird, I would say. You know, splitting a hash mask into 10,000 pieces or I don't know what. So yeah, I just see a big problem with having 10K communities. That's really my point, because you want to build a large community that you can meet everywhere in the world. You know, you want local meetups everywhere. You really want as many people in your community as possible. I mean, do you see any influencer that says at 10K followers I stop? I mean, that's completely against their business model. So it's like you said, it's blindly following the most successful project. Then apes came, and suddenly everyone thought, okay, 10K it is, without questioning it. So you blindly follow it, and then you end up with a community of 10K flippers, and you eventually die. What's going to happen now? I mean, we all know it, and
Well, I'll push back on that a little bit. Like, for instance, CryptoPunks didn't even have 1,000 holders until February 16th of this year, right? You can go look this up. So the fact that, and I know it's a different sort of like context as to when they just existed, but I think it depends on what your purpose is. If it's literally just a community, I think you can survive with several hundred, right? You can survive with like a couple thousand. But if you're gonna try to transition into like broader value that you're gonna deliver to your token holders in one way or another, yeah, I think it's probably ridiculous to just think you're gonna do that when sub 10,000 people have to have an opportunity to actually own. So that's the thing. It's like, what's the purpose? What's the outcome you want? And if you're very open and honest about it, then I think that you'll get the collector that you want for whatever reasons.
One comment on that. It's pretty interesting that you shared like 1,000 followers until this year, 1,000 owners, unique owners. So the question is, obviously the punk community is bigger. So my question is, are you a more valuable member of the community if you own a punk? What's the difference between a community member that has actually a punk and the ones that don't? So it's really like, are you already also separating your community into the real and good members, and the other ones are like, how do you think about that? What's the difference between a community member owning a real punk and the ones that don't?
I don't get what you're asking. Are you saying like, if you're not a punk owner?
No, I mean, is the punk community everybody that likes punks, or only the people that really own a punk?
So I don't think that question is specific to punks so much as like,
no, it's like
if
a general question.
Yeah, if you don't own an NFT, can you be part of that community? And I think that's part of the whole brand play, right? How do you make it a brand in that like, when I buy a brand that I like, it's not because I'm part of the community, it's because I like that brand. I don't necessarily own any assets directly tied to that, right? So if they don't want to be a brand, I don't think it's a big deal, but if they do, then they gotta figure out like how to make people feel inclusive. I think what the Bored Apes did was very interesting, because they did the Mutant Apes thing. So now they basically did a 3X on their community size, because I know there's overlap there, but they had like, I think like 5,500 owners for Bored Apes, and then the mutants are around like 9,800 or something like that. So they 3X their community in size, which is good, right? Like I said, I know there's overlap, but let's assume it's probably at least 10K, probably, so of like non-overlap wallets. So to me, that's good. They found a way to expand, and then you've got the dogs and things like that. So I see Bored Apes as building a brand. Cool Cats is doing things like trying to build a brand, but that's not for everyone. And if you're building a brand, you don't need an owner to be part of the community, I think. I think they're going to find ways to be more inclusive.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that kind of based off of just the 10K communities, regardless of what the number is, right? There's a certain aspect sometimes of exclusivity in the community, and the exclusivity kind of wanting you to, want to join more because of that. You can't get in, or you need, certain amount to get in, whatever the case is, and it's not necessarily obtainable at that time, and it makes it a little bit more desired. But I also think that the aspect of whatever number that you come upon, it's also, when you are giving back to those holders and when you are giving back to those communities at a larger scale, it can be much harder. And so while you want to welcome as many as you can you deliver the roadmap that you've promised to all those people, or can you deliver what you want to give back to all those people? And I think there's an aspect of scaling up in that way. And as you mentioned with the mutant apes and the dogs, it's been kind of various series of their drops versus everything kind of all at once. And so, yeah, I think with community aspect and with just 10K communities, whatever the number is, I think it's really just about, can you deliver upon what you've promised to that number of community, and what does that community look like as you scale up? I think we've talked about, obviously we've talked about Bored Apes and punks up here and whatnot, but I'd ask you guys, what are some communities that maybe you're a part of right now or just have kind of discovered and just been checking out on Twitter or anything like that that has kind of attracted you or brought you in, maybe potentially looking to buy an NFT or already own one recently that you got? Any communities that come to mind?
I'm sort of like a degenerate in a way because I just like speculate on things.
Definitely.
At the same time, there's some that I like that have a certain sort of vibe. Like I like Creature World just because like Danny is like a character in a way. And like, I'm like, all right, who's this guy? I was looking at it. I was like, I want to mint these. And then I went to mint them. Then he made us like actually do work. So I was like, this is dumb. I'm just going to buy on secondary. But he put effort in, so I liked it. So I like the vibe of that like community and what he's doing. He's just doing things different. There's a lot of projects that I look at. I just monitor Discords. The one that I like, and I don't even have kids, but Crypto Dads and they have the Crypto Moms, and I have like Crypto Tots. That's interesting to me because it fits something that aligns with like a social sort of like the way we live, and it's like, oh, you can get a couple, you can get one for you and your spouse. They even allow like same sex, so like you can have a same sex or gender couple and they can get a crypto tot. So like doing those little things, there's Crypto Hodlers did something similar. So I think that's cool because it's like aligning sort of like the mechanics almost of real life in a way that make it such that you can do it with your NFT and then maybe people, play that forward and, give it to their kids. Who knows? But I just thought that like that sort of alignment to like family structure was interesting.
Anything for you?
I'm trying to buy not a single 10K avatar project at the moment.
Anti-10K.
No, yeah, I still bought some, of course, but I'm trying to limit it.
Yeah.
But I bought, or I'm a big fan of Lost Poets from Puck.
Okay.
Or a big fan, but I think it's just, first of all, it's 64,000 somewhat poets. And I like this whole gamification stuff where you don't know what's going to happen. You can name your poets, you can teach them words and everything. I think it's a little bit more effort than the regular avatar project. And I support some smaller projects like Luchadores. I think nobody knows it. You know it?
Yeah, I like that they use Chainlink VRF.
It's fully on chain. But
yeah, it's fully on chain. So
I
I didn't mint any, but I remember liking that they were doing the Chainlink VRF stuff.
But you can't talk about we. That's a big problem about the project. It's one guy.
Oh,
and I asked him, do you need more people? And he's like, no. And that's the only thing that worries me a bit, but it's play to earn. He's working on stuff. It's quite cool. He's active. And yeah, I recently bought into Avegotchi land sale last weekend. So there's also a lot of stuff happening on the Polygon side. And yeah, I'm trying to also, diversify into different chains at the moment because I feel I'm a big Ethereum fan. Obviously, Ethereum almost maximalist, I would say, but the entry barrier is just too high. I mean, you cannot buy each collectible at least has to cost, I don't know, 0.3 ETH or whatever, that you don't feel like you're spending 50% on gas fees. So I'm also looking into other chains, but the problem is that most chains just bring out soul punks or soul apes, and I'm like, I'm not going to buy this. I'm not going to say it, but that's like, I mean, this is low effort, 0.1.
Yeah, the derivatives, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's boring.
Yeah.
I want to buy something that at least is fun.
Definitely. I mean, I've actually been more on the Solana blockchain, I feel like, in terms of like their communities. Yeah, Solana, anybody else? Yep. All right, yeah.
We got some Solana people in the house.
Yeah.
Good.
So I kind of actually, because of that, because of what you're kind of talking about with Ethereum and the gas fees, kind of that's what brought me over to Solana more. And I've been more looking at the other projects where they're actually creating something unique, right? Not the apes, not the punks, and kind of doing Ethereum projects on Solana, but there's one community that I was actually able to mint in at an early point called D Gods, and I've just liked how they've kind of communicated with their community. They've been able to give info to their community. They've been able to provide resources, and they're really doing more of the extra step, if you would, to communities than just normal projects. So definitely Solana blockchain's great, but yeah, and of course NBA Top Shot. I don't know if anybody's here on NBA Top Shot, but that's another just big community, and I think that's more so in the sense of, you know, not the 10K, and that's more open to anybody. You can sign up and start collecting moments of your favorite player.
Oh yeah, they're going to make sure that they keep that supply going up. So.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right on. Give
Well,
it
thank
up
you,
to
guys.
this great group right here, talking about communities in crypto for your collectibles. Very, very much needed. I think Maanz G right here is going to be my new bodyguard. Look at this dude. I need that.
I got
All
you.
right. Great job, guys.
Thank you.
Love the community growing. Very important. Probably the most important thing in this whole deal.